Hi, pardon my ragamuffin appearance. It's a rainy sleep-in Saturday night. I rested much today. And I've enjoyed my early evening. I'm wondering whether any of you do readings in bed. Now, I pretty much have to because I live in a really tiny place with no proper desk or table to work at. But I have my own tools that help me out, that come in handy for reading in bed. I have this lovely wooden bed tray, which I use as a lap desk. Put it on my lap. Then I have a cotton spread cloth. I have a number of these. This one was made in India. And I lay that down on top of the wood tray because if you spread cards out on wood, sometimes they're hard to pick up on the edge and your fingernails can damage the edge of your cards. If you lay them out on cloth, it's easier to grab hold of them when you pick them up, turn them, so forth. Next I have a little cauldron that I put incense in, which you can't see right now. I have a stick of sage in here and a little incense burner in the bottom. And it's pretty much burned down now, almost to the bottom. But that's nice to have on the corner of my tray. The smoke from the incense does an insinuative dance across my reading surface. Helps with intuition. Next I have pen and journal, my tarot journal. Lastly, I have a series of decks in bags and boxes, or just loose. And my tray won't really support more than a 5-card spread. I often do single pulls, 3-card or 5-card. When I'm dealing with a new deck, and I have some new ones, actually, I got this one a few days ago, the Cheminette, and it was used. I've been told to sage new decks that are used just to sort of dispel the previous owner's energy so that it can make way for mine. And so I just did that with this deck. I'd actually shuffled and read it before, but it feels better now knowing that the energy has been imbued with sage and dispersed the old energy and is ready for my new energy. So I don't do complicated spreads, and sometimes I do a number of spread questions one after another in short 3 to 5 card spreads. And usually when I do that, I'll use the same deck. Sometimes I'll use different decks. Tonight, since I have some new decks, I've been kind of enjoying exploring those decks. So I've done a sequence of about 5 different spreads just to see what each of the new decks had for me in terms of information. I didn't really direct any questions at them, just, tell me a little something. Have you got something to tell me today? So then I spread the cards out, get out my little notebook, my little journal, my magnetic journal. I love these magnetic journals. And put the date on the page, the name of the deck. If it's a 5-card spread, I'll put that. and then across the top I'll indicate the 5 cards, and then I'll start to write my impressions for each of the cards, what I get out of it, and then I'll look down the page and see what that says to me, how each of those cards relates to one another, whether they tell a story, whether there's an overall theme or direction. It helps me get to know my new decks. It helps me to familiarize myself more with cards. It helps me to see the difference between one deck and another. Sometimes the same card will come up in different decks, but the imagery will be different. I've been familiarizing myself with the, besides the Chamonette deck, the new one I have, the Intuiti Creative cards. Now, these are very difficult to read because they are abstract color cards that are not as obvious in terms of stories or characters or imagery. They're harder to read, so they really demand a little more thought and patience. And unfortunately, perhaps, or fortunately, they have a little number in the corner. They have Roman numerals for the majors. If you want to use these as a tarot deck, it doesn't spell that out in the guidance book, but I like to use it as a tarot deck. And it gives me a new way of looking at major cards and minors. And the minors are divided into Arabic numbers. So I'm having to familiarize myself with the numbers and translate in my head what the RWS correspondence image-wise is to this deck, and see whether I can see a relationship between the abstract art and those Rider-Waite images. And it's interesting and not always easy to do, but I think it will help me in the long run with my process. Now, I have a lot of these. All the decks that I show you, I have walkthroughs of on my channel. So if you're interested in any of those, you can go have a look. But I just wanted to pop on for a minute or two and see whether any of you have your own, well, I wouldn't call it an altar, but let's say a little workstation in your bed, on your lap, where you can read. The only other tool I need is my lamp. And I'm all set. My tray, my cloth, my lamp, my incense, my pen and notebook, and my cards. Oh, also my dice. I used tonight my tarot dice. This is another one where I don't have images when I use the dice. So I have to translate the colors and the numbers tossed into the RWS system for me to interpret. Oh, excuse me. I dropped my fire dice, my wands. So if you don't have a little bed tray, I encourage you to get one. A handsome little tray to hold your cards and divinatory tools in bed just before sleeping. Who knows, you might even dream some interpretations Until next time, sleep well, read well, be well.